What we really hope the Head Start initiative will achieve is to prove the case as to why headwater catchments are firstly vital for biodiversity and the wider water environment, but secondly important for water companies to be able to invest in their conservation, their restoration and their protection, working collaboratively with other organisations like landowners, farming groups and conservation organisations.
Head Start will help us refocus freshwater conservation onto upper catchments, onto headwaters, where we think we can make the most rapid improvements most cost effectively for the freshwater environment. The reason we haven't focused on headwaters and upper catchments is because we've assumed that the small water bodies which are so prevalent in them just aren't as important as bigger lakes and rivers downstream. And that's led us and our policies to deprioritise them, to assume that they are less important, they just don't need as much protection or attention. That needs to change because, as it turns out, they are the richest part of the water environment. We see the greatest variety of freshwater biodiversity in upper catchments. But all our policies, all our legislation takes us away from working on those special habitats. By working in headwater catchments, we can start at the top and work downstream. So any improvements we make in the headwaters feed automatically downstream further into the catchment. Head Start's concerned with the whole of the freshwater environment, and we'll be tackling 4 main practical activities to work on that whole water environment. So we'll be looking at improving, upgrading the small descriptive treatment works that discharge into headwater streams. We'll be trying to control remaining diffuse pollution sources from farmland in headwater catchments, which we can do more effectively because these are often quite small areas of headwaters. We'll be trying to improve the physical structure of headwater streams, which have been damaged by many years of straightening and deepening to drain the land. And we'll be putting back and protecting clean water ponds and wetlands because these are the hotspots for freshwater biodiversity in many catchments. When it comes to wastewater treatment plants, it's exactly the same story. We assume that because they're small, they're only affecting these small water bodies. Well, it doesn't matter too much. They're not discharging huge amounts of pollution. And the water bodies that they are discharging into, well, they're not important, are they? So that needs to change as well. And in fact, when we go up into upper catchments, into headwaters, we see wastewater plants actually having a disproportionate impact on those small streams. Even treated sewage effluents will have a disproportionate effect on the quality of those streams.
Really small sewage treatment works or water recycling centres are the ones that serve a relatively small number of people. And because of that, they don't get a lot of regulatory attention and they rarely get funding as well to improve them. And what that means is in our headwater catchments, despite a relatively small amount of flow going into the environment, they can be quite polluting, quite high levels of phosphate, for example. And that means in these environments which really should be pristine and really great for biodiversity, they're probably not as good as they should be. They fail to get funding because of cost-benefit rules, and that means that whilst we're spending a lot of time and money quite rightly investing in bigger sewage treatment works further downstream, these other sites really don't get any attention as well. What we'd like to show is that the biodiversity value of these places is great, the societal value of these places is great, but our routes to funding don't match that. And if we can make that case, then we can hopefully secure water funding in the future to address the pressures that these small sewage treatment works have on the environment.
Another regulatory barrier that we suffer from is the fact that because we've assumed that small water bodies are not important, that headwater streams aren't important, that ponds and small lakes are not important, they're simply left out of regulation. So when you come to spending money, it all points you downstream in the catchment to bigger waters, to bigger lakes, to bigger rivers, stopping you from working in the upper catchments where you could actually get most benefit most quickly.
For us to be able to invest significantly in headwater catchments and for us to invest not just on our own impacts on the river system, but to invest more collaboratively in the water environment in the round, that includes ponds and wetlands, we need to be able to change the policies that govern our funding. And the Head Start initiative will help us to prove the case scientifically, but also explore what the policy and practical answers are so that we can bring these partners together and we can invest more effectively and deliver some great outcomes for the region's environment.